Okay, let's dive right in. We're going back, way back, 4,000 years to uncover what's basically the blueprint for global trade. And the crazy part? This whole story, this entire commercial empire, has been pieced together from thousands of secrets, literally baked into simple tablets of clay.
So take a look at this. It might just look like an ancient tablet, but it's so much more. It's a window, and it's just one of tens of thousands of documents just like it, found in the ancient city of Kanesh. Together, they give us this just unprecedented look into one of the very first great international trade networks in history.
What these tablets record is, well, a commercial empire. And it was built on tin, textiles, and most importantly, trust. You see, for centuries, merchants from a city called Ashur created this incredibly sophisticated system, and it was based on something pretty revolutionary for the time, free enterprise. They connected a huge part of the world, from Central Asia all the way to modern-day Turkey, and they did it without a conquering army. They did it with trade.
So that's the big question, right? How on earth did they pull this off? What exactly did they build? And maybe the most important question, what happened when their whole economic world came crashing down around them?
Well, to understand how it all worked, you have to realize it all started with a journey. And not just any journey, a very, very long and difficult one.
I mean, try to wrap your head around this. A 6 to 8 week journey. That's almost 2 months trekking across 1,000 kilometers of some really treacherous terrain. We're talking no trucks, no trains, forget about paved roads. The entire operation, the whole thing, was powered by donkeys. And these weren't just pack animals. They were so valuable that they were often sold for a tidy profit at the end of the trip.
So what exactly were these donkeys hauling all that way? Basically, the essential building blocks of the Bronze Age. You've got huge amounts of tin, which they were getting from as far away as Afghanistan. You absolutely needed that to make bronze. Then you have these luxury textiles woven back home in Ashur. All of these goods were then traded for silver and gold. And believe me, the profits were massive.
Okay, so this whole network had a couple of key hubs. The home base, let's call it the headquarters, was the city of Ashur in what's now Iraq. But the real operational center, the place where all the action happened, was a city called Kanesh in modern-day Turkey. The Assyrian merchants set up a permanent trading colony there. They called it a Karum, which was basically a special district just for merchants, and they would live and work there for years at a time, hundreds and hundreds of miles away from their families.
Now, you've got to be wondering, how did they manage all this? I mean, this is a seriously complex system, and they had no phones, no email, no digital spreadsheets. Well, their software, if you want to call it that, was this incredible mix of trust, family ties, and a legal system that was surprisingly advanced.
And this really gets to the core of how they saw the world. For these Assyrian merchants, a contract wasn't just some business deal. It was a sacred, religious obligation. When they made a deal, they swore oaths in front of a symbol of their main god, the god Ashur. So, fulfilling that contract, making a profit, that was literally seen as a divine duty. If you broke that trust, it wasn't just illegal, you were offending the gods themselves. And this was their legal tech. They had these clay tablets, right? Merchants would use a simplified cuneiform script to press every single detail of a deal right into the wet clay. We're talking loans, joint stock investments, partnerships, the whole shebang. Then they'd bake the tablet and boom, you've got a permanent tamper-proof record. It was an incredibly smart system for a business world that was, filled with risk. The whole thing was really built on this amazing family structure. Think about it. You had the men, the husbands, the sons, living for years as expats in Kanesh, handling the sales. But back in Ashur, it was the women who were running the other half of the business. They managed the family estates, and, this is absolutely crucial, they oversaw the production of those high-quality textiles that were the source of all the profit. It was a genuine family firm, just split across an entire continent.
And for about 200 years, this system worked brilliantly. It created just incredible wealth and a lot of stability. But, like any economic system, it had its weaknesses. It was fragile, and a perfect storm of events was brewing that was about to shatter the whole thing.
The beginning of the end really started with the climate. Scientists actually have a name for it, the 4.2K event. Basically, it was this period of sudden, really severe drought that hit the whole Near East. And that climate shock caused agriculture to collapse, which then sparked all this conflict. Suddenly, those long caravan journeys weren't just difficult, they were dangerously unstable.
So this timeline really shows this dramatic shift. You can see the merchants actually bounced back after that first crisis and even hit a kind of golden age.
But then their main trading hub, Kanesh, was destroyed by fire, and the system just couldn't recover from that. The whole model that was built on peaceful trade, it was broken. And into that power vacuum stepped a new kind of leader, warlords, like a guy named Shamshi-Adad, who figured it was better to control resources by force, not by making deals.
And we have to be clear, this wasn't just a change in politics. This was a fundamental shift in their entire society's identity. The basic rules for survival had changed. Suddenly, the skills that made you successful weren't negotiation and logistics anymore. Now it was all about conquest and control. And this transformation, this pivot, laid the groundwork for what would become the later and much more infamous Neo-Assyrian Empire, an empire known not for its traders, but for its terrifying armies.
So it leaves us with this big question, right? When the economy that builds a society completely breaks down, what comes next? The story of these ancient Assyrian merchants is just a powerful reminder that the answer to that question can literally reshape the course of history. It can turn merchants into conquerors and turn busy trade routes into the front lines of a war.